Good afternoon, and you're very welcome to our webinar on leading high performing teams in conjunction with Leinster Rugby. I'll just give people another few minutes to join us. So again, very welcome to you all. My name is Kathy Timlin, and I'm Head of Business Development with UCD Smurfit Executive Development. I'm delighted to be joined this afternoon by John O'Gorman. John is Programme Director for the leading high performing teams in conjunction with Leinster Rugby and has been involved with the programme since 2021. And John is also joined this afternoon by Emma Burrows, who is the Personal Development Manager with Leinster Rugby. And Emma is co-facilitator of the programme here in Smurfit Executive Development. So I would encourage you to pose questions via the Q&A box. If you click on the More button at the bottom of your screen, you'll be able to enable the Q&A box, and we're happy to take questions in real time as we move through the presentation. We'll also be sharing some useful links and further information via the chat button. So without further ado, I'll hand over to John and Emma.
Good afternoon, everyone. Delighted to be here. So we're going to jump straight in, and I'm going to play a little video to get going, just to get the vibe for the session. So on this program, we bring immersion to Leinster Rugby, but there's a couple of things that we address through the program over the couple of days. One is what we see as a performance paradox in business and how that relates to sport. I'll talk to you a bit about that in a moment. And the second is 5 to 6 key principles that Leinster Rugby would practice, what they might call muscles that can be developed with regular practice to drive performance. So we look at those two things. Two areas, the performance paradox and these principles, and get participants to immerse themselves in those. I was asked what the difference is about this program, and it's very difficult to share what the difference is. And I wanted to put this photo together because I think this kind of highlights it. This is last year's class in Leinster Rugby HQ down in UCD, and the very first day of this program, people go straight to Leinster. They meet with Leinster staff. They eat where the players eat. They get to train where the players train. And on the right-hand side of that screen or that photo, there's some of the things that people said from last year's cohort on what they got out of the program. I'm going to give you a few seconds just to read those things on the right-hand side. You'll notice that everybody's smiling in that photo. When I first got involved in this program, I was blown away by the welcome that Leo Cullen and the team in Leinster gave the cohort that we had, the business executives who were on the cohort with us when they went down to Leinster. The honesty, the just the immersion in Leinster Rugby. So if you're interested in the transferability of high performing sport into high performing business and what high performing teams in elite sport do and some of the things that you can bring back into your business, this is the program for you. Emma, I don't know if you have anything to add or jump in there just to turn it, as you're smiling in that photo also.
I'm still smiling this morning too. Yeah, why this program is important to us, I suppose, is my role in Leinster is to help players prepare for whatever their life after sport will be. It's also to help the younger generation move into the high performance environment and help them learn how to survive it and then ultimately thrive in it. So what this program is and why we've been running it since I started with Leinster is to make sure that the players are getting exposure to what high performance business is too. And that's why we hold places on the course for current and past players. So you'll see in last year's cohort, I think we had five last year. Molly and Caroline, Dev, Max, and Luke, because it's important for us to give them real experience of what the world is, but also this course, I mean, it's an investment from Leinster Rugby in the community too, and we want to make sure that people are getting as much time in the Leinster Rugby environment with the Leinster Rugby values as possible, and that's why it's important for us to make sure that players are in the room too. Um, and I know while Luke is moving on this year and taking his leadership abroad, the guys haven't really stopped talking about it since. They got, I know one point for them in particular was they got a very different perspective of Leo, from hearing Leo talk about his own leadership while they experience it. It was such a surprise for them to hear how thoughtful he is about it and how much consideration he gives it. So while they've been living it for 13 years, he still surprised them.
Brilliant. Thanks, Emma. So the key point I want to emphasize is this isn't just a smattering of Leinster Rugby in an academic program. So all of day one of this program is spent in Leinster's facilities. We have a playing to win drill where participants get to experience a drill that players actually take part in the gym. We have briefings with Leo Cullen, the head coach. We also have briefings from the data analyst team who get people to think about the role of data in sport and the important role it has in sport, and then how that again ties back into business. What type of data is used in business? How is it used to drive performance in the short, medium, and long term? And there's really energetic conversations between the data analysts who work so hard to prepare the team in Leinster, all the teams in Leinster, and the participants. So that was some of the points we wanted to make there. I mentioned the performance paradox. Many of the business leaders that come on this program, they're actually meeting their performance targets. Their organizations are meeting their performance targets. But when we ask them a question about the potential within their organization or the potential within the team, they generally say to us that their organizations or teams are realizing maybe 60, 70% of their full potential. So what we wanted you to do today was just pause, take a moment to reflect. What percentage of your own organization's potential is being realized today? Maybe you'll just grab your pad and just write down what you feel the answer to that question is. And then for the team that you sit in, the team that you lead, the team that you're part of, what percentage of the team's potential is being realized today? And are you putting down 60, 70, 80% potential? What are you putting down? So we call that the performance paradox. Many teams are meeting their performance targets, but yet when we ask teams and team members what percentage of their potential they're realizing, they feel there's a gap there. And it's in that gap that this program focuses to identify where the next pieces of potential can be realized. And that's what Leinster Rugby are trying to do every single day in terms of on the pitch, off the pitch, with past, present, and current players. So the principles I mentioned, some principles for you to consider. Are you and your team putting the big things first? Are you and your team clear on what success is? We discussed this in the early parts of the program. We discuss it with Leo when we first get to the facility. Are you, your team, celebrating progress? Can you pause for a moment and ask yourself, what progress has your team made in the past 30, 60, 90 days? Progress is critically important. Are you recognizing that? The next principle that we talk about and spend a lot of time working with the cohort on is, are your team working to a balanced scorecard for sustainable performance? We don't just look at the performance, the KPIs. We look at a number of other metrics. They're discussed on the cohort, and I'm going to share them with you in a moment. Are you dynamically aligning together? Lots of senior leaders talk to us about alignment, and lots of sports teams talk to us about alignment too. But are we dynamically aligning together? It's dynamic. Things change. Things changed on Saturday for Leinster Rugby, but we've got to realign. Got to get back on the bike again, so to speak. There's another match on Saturday. Are you or your team optimizing the ways of working, the ways of interacting? Ways of working, ways of interacting, ways of playing, ways of interacting. Are you optimizing those, and what can we learn from sport? What can we bring from sport back into business? And the sixth one, are you your team learning? Continuously learning, continuously evolving. Some people would say these are maybe basic principles, but these are the principles that we would talk through, work through using frameworks, models, tools, and have conversations, as Emma said, with current players, with also members of the organisation of Leinster Rugby and the coaching staff. I wanted to play a little video, so just bear with me for a second because I want to get this up to a point. So if you can just bear with me, I want to get this up to second 56, so you're not listening to my tones in the video.
Commercial director, head of HR, and their data analytics teams.
Probably the big thing we're trying to get our heads around always is the process versus the outcome. So listen, we're all trying to be successful. What does success look like? Is it always at the end of a season with a trophy? There's all these other factors that come into play as well. How do we get a better process to get a better outcome, essentially? Because we're in control of what we do every day, and that's the preparation part. So yes, the quest goes on.
Winning in sport.
The quest still goes on. That video was shot a number of months back. The quest still goes on. The margins in high-performing sport are unbelievable. Sometimes people underestimate them. For anybody who watched the game on Saturday, and it was fingertips margins at one stage, and fair play to Bordeaux, they were unbelievable. They were a better team on the day. But success, progress, and pausing. Leo asked the question, "What is success?" We have a running joke between us, between Leo and I, which is I walk into the room with the cohort and I say to him, "What is high performing?" And Leo smiles and he goes, "John, I'm not too sure," because high performing is a never-ending thing. It's always moving forward. So you've got to be really, really conscious of what is high performing, what's a high performing system, what's a high performing team. And we talk in depth about that with Leo and the coaching staff in Leinster over the 3 days. There's a book written called Doing Agile Right, for any business organization who talks about agile and applying agile principles. But I think this is a great quote. As senior leaders, your job is to help your team create more frequent wins, to highlight progress and celebrate that progress in rousing ways. You've got to do that. I think on Saturday, you mentioned to me earlier that the dressing room was a quiet place, but you moved on.
And very quickly, the, I suppose, beautiful thing about working in a high performing sport organization is the next thing is pretty much always in front of you. So we have a choice to make about how long we experience an emotion for, whether that's the high or the low. And certainly there's plenty of players who'll tell you that they don't go terribly high with the highs or low with the lows because it costs too much to do that. So they stay fairly even the whole way. But yeah, absolutely. Walking down those steps on Saturday from way up high with all of the staff, and honest to goodness, like watching most of it through my hands. And I don't have a huge role to play in game day. All of my work is in helping people be the happiest, healthiest versions of themselves so that they're available to play wholeheartedly. That was rough. It was rough. I was pushing past Caelan's brother to get out down onto the pitch and going, God, I'm sure he'd rather see his brother right now than me. But down we go. And to watch them watch Bordeaux get their medals is hard. You know, they're people you care about deeply when you work in and out week on week with them. And you're down the corridor then and you can smell the pizza that used to be hot waiting in the changing room, and you know, you're not even sure if it's okay to walk into the changing room. So we were kind of loitering in the hall waiting to taste the mood to figure out should we go in or not. And then Leo comes bouncing down the hall in his usual gait and pretty much says, "Why aren't we eating? Why aren't we drinking? You know, it's the end of the year and we all got here together and it's time to spend the time with each other." And what I've always noticed him do as a leader is he gives us a lot of permission to try. He gives us a lot of permission to be creative, and to be curious and to try things out. He also asks an unmerciful amount of questions to make sure that it's the right time to be curious as opposed to the right time to hold fort. But what he did for us there on Saturday evening was give us our permission to exhale and enjoy each other and celebrate what it was rather than mourn what it could have been. And it's for me, it's that old adage of like two things can be true at the same time. It's a huge disappointment. I, every time you ask that question about potential and performance, I always jot it down for myself anyway. And I was like, well, that's 90%, isn't it? A final is 90%. We didn't get the last 10, but 90 is pretty cool. And with the quarterfinal this weekend, that feels like 75, but the rest is TBC. So while, yeah, the team took a break on Sunday and spent the afternoon together, and we'll take today off as much as athletes are ever off, to decompress, and then we'll train tomorrow and the team will get picked and they'll rest and recover and get massages, and we'll go out on Saturday night and go again. With the permission that we were given on Saturday night to just let that one go because it's already passed, and that's something that Leo does really, really well, is park it for us and kind of lead the way on the ambition and attitude for the week forward.
Great, thanks, Emma. It's a real privilege to get to work in this environment. There's always progress. Sometimes people don't realize that, but there's always progress. We're not going to get into that in more detail now, but I just ask you to reflect in your own organizations. Are you seeing that progress? And also, are you taking the time to recover when you need to recover? Because that's one of the key things the players will talk to. And if you come on this program and you'll get to chat with some of the players, they'll talk to you about recognizing the progress, but also recognizing the time for recovery. So that's one of the key principles they'll talk about. A little visual for you. Quite welcome to take a photograph of that visual if you like. I've mentioned a balanced scorecard for collective performance. If you just go on the basis of the wins every single day, every single week, it can get tiring. So I'm going to have a question for you. How confident are you in your team's ability to meet its performance targets? What percentage of your team's potential has been realized? I asked you that question earlier on, but maybe just keeping that. What level of pressure is your team facing? What's the vitality within your team? And when your team collaborates, what percentage of that collaboration is effective? We call those the 5 big numbers. And I know that from a player perspective, the player participants in this cohort, which there will be probably likely be 4, they are intrigued by these 5 numbers. So I'm going to ask you to just jump into a Minty. So there's a QR code there. Invite everybody on the webinar to scan that QR code. And just to put your answers to those 5 questions into the Minty. Now, please note all responses are anonymous, and any data that we gather here today will be deleted. Scan the QR code, run those sliders down, and hit submit. And just let's see what comes out of the data set from the people on the webinar today. This is always the moment on a webinar that you're there going, you just want the first response to come in. Yay. So we know the technology works. Wonderful.
John, you'll take a guess at what my curiosity is piqued by immediately.
Which one, Emma?
Well-being.
Yes, of course. So in the moment, are you just measuring performance? Are you measuring performance potential? Are you considering the level of pressure that your colleagues are under, your team members are under, you yourself? You're considering the level of well-being within the team and the percentage of collaboration that's effective. Everybody uses the term collaboration, and in the business world, we don't use the term collaboration on the field in sport. We talk about playing to win, getting better at playing. We don't necessarily use the word collaboration. So I'm really curious in a business environment, what's the parallels between on-field work that they do on the field, off-field work that Emma does with players, etc., and what we do in business. And ask people to be really, really curious about that level of effectiveness of collaboration. On the program, we introduce participants to a model for collaboration that's used in business, and we compare that and how that can be used in sport. So it's a two-way conversation around tools that can be used in business, tools that can be used in sport. I invite you to take a picture of that visual if you like, and you can ask your team members these questions. How confident are you in us meeting our performance targets? What percentage of our potential? What will emerge from that conversation is a strategic conversation, and what will emerge will sometimes be new insights into how people see the team that you operate in, and how people believe people's belief system in terms of what's going on in the team. Yeah, I guess maybe for some of the players today, Emma, the well-being might be down. Yeah, but pressure obviously is not going to be as high as it was on Saturday.
Pressure is a funny thing. External and internal pressure are entirely different things. I think we could write a lot and fill some column inches about how much pressure the backroom team should feel today and how they actually should feel more pressure now. And I'm sure somebody will write that this week, that we should feel more pressure now to retain the URC title than we felt at the weekend to get over the hump of finals and semi-finals in Europe. But it's about internal standards, isn't it? It's about your own accountability. I would be happy to put money on it that everybody's very dehydrated today. You know, it was very hot in Bilbao over the weekend, but also, you know, quite a lot of beers taken in since Saturday evening. So there's no way that there isn't pressure this week. But my understanding of these people is that it will be the same pressure and expectations that they always have of themselves. They don't really lower their expectations for what they can give. Like they're always expecting that they will put out 100% of their capacity. Now, what capacity is changes week to week for sure, but there's no way they take this week less seriously than they took last week.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Standards. Yeah. What standards are being set? Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I mentioned at the outset the access that we get from your colleagues, Emma, Brian and Juliet. Brian was sitting right beside Leo. Anyone who watched the match on Saturday. Data, the importance of data, but the important role these staff members play. Often there's the effort that they put in is massive. And what lands on me when I listen to Brian and Juliet talk all the time is, you know, in business, what role are our own data analysts playing, and what efforts are they putting in to help us ask and answer some of these questions? How data supports us working in real time, how data helps us with day-to-day performance, how the data provided influences the conditions that are created. And there's a huge emphasis on the conditions that are created in Leinster. And we often ask the participants in the cohort, the business executives, what conditions are you creating? And what role does data play in helping you create the right conditions? So it's something for you to consider, and you will get exposure to the data analysts over the 3 days on the program. I wanted to kind of finish up and leave you with this slide, which was, these are the words. I took the words from flip charts and asked ChatGPT to create a nice image for me today for this webinar. And these are the words that the participants had put up on flip charts in terms of to describe their experience over the 3 days that they had with us last year. So this is what you will experience. I can't emphasize enough. You will have access to the head coach, Leo. You'll have access to Emma. You'll meet the head of operations, Guy Easterby. You'll meet the head of HR. You'll meet the head of commercial. You'll meet the data analysts. This is a highly immersive program, and you will get to pause and ask yourself, what are the aspects of elite sport from Leinster Rugby that can be transferred into your business, and what aspects aren't? And then the beauty for Leinster Rugby is, and the players and the staff is, for them to hear you talk about what's excellence or what's high performing in your business area, and they can learn. So there's a two-way learning here, high level of immersion, two-way learning. And I guess that's kind of bringing me to an end at 12:25 with a few minutes left, Kathy, for Emma and I to answer any questions that there may be.
That's great. Thanks so much, John and Emma. I guess having been involved with the program for in recent years, what's the biggest change you might have seen in some of the previous participants that have been through the program?
Oh, good question. The participants, the change from the participants angle, is it?
Yes, yeah.
Interesting. Well, I think first of all, we've a diverse bunch of participants, from big technology companies to Irish-owned entrepreneurial companies. And I guess that the mix is a very solid mix of people with different perspectives. Have I seen a difference over the 3 year in the cohorts? Not necessarily a difference. I guess what I see is a high level of energy and an enthusiasm to learn. And Emma's word, curiosity, a curiosity from the participants. We do start the 3 days, and we ask people an interesting question: what will they accept and why, and what will they reject and why? Because you can get immersed in elite sport and think everything is transferable, but of course it isn't. There's things that are transferable, and there are things that aren't, and there are things that are transferable from business into sport if everybody opens their eyes, and that's the two-way learning. Emma?
Yeah, I stay in touch with a lot of past participants. I watch, and I suppose that's my business, right, is understanding people's careers. So I watch with joy, really, to see what people go on and do with what we've talked about. And yeah, I mean, cause and effect, you could chicken or egg. A lot of people have gone on to lead bigger teams. They've moved organizations, they've taken promotions, they've found focus on themselves and their well-being longer term. And actually quite a few of them now have circled back into the rugby network and are actually providing business mentoring and coaching for some of the current players who are setting up their own stuff, or they're providing mentoring for past players who are maybe 2 to 3 years retired and looking to grow their networks or improve themselves. I guess that elite athlete drive to be better doesn't really leave you. So what I find, community actually, I think is the word I'm looking for, is that these 3 days are so immersive and connected that people find a community in it and continue to support each other long after they've spent the 3 days.
Something has bubbled up for me there, Kathy, Emma, and it's not just people from this side of the country. So we have
definitely had, yes, people from Galway.
Yeah.
We've definitely had a Munster fan
Yes.
say that he, actually likes Leo as a person now. Having watched all of his post-match interviews, and he's really excellent at using up all of the minutes so that nobody can ask him a second question. That you gain a bit of an appreciation that he is a man at the top of a very tense organization. I don't know if anybody would care to be in the Instagram comments since Saturday night, but I'd say he's the top hit in Google this week on calls for his head. And it's fascinating, I suppose, to watch that and go, there isn't a sniff of that internally. I would quite happily say I would run through walls to continue to be led by himself and Guy Easterby, who you'll get some time with. And actually Rachel Scanlon as well, our head of HR. She's probably got one of the best grasps on leadership I've ever come across. I've worked across Olympic sport and professional football and professional rugby, and there's some people in Leinster who are just truly world-class people.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
And one other thing now you've got us going, Kathy, is
You're on a roll.
we had a participant last year from a technology company, very senior leader in a technology company, and she comes from the States, and she said she knew nothing about rugby coming into the program. Well, her experience over the 3 days was phenomenal, and the post she put up on LinkedIn after the 3 days, the learning that she took from this area. So you don't have to be an expert in rugby to come on this. I guess the requirement probably is the curiosity on what an elite sporting environment can bring to business, and business back to elite sporting environment is probably the tick box for you to be thinking about if you're considering coming on this program.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks so much, John, to you and Emma. I suppose just before we close out, we'll hopefully have confirmed dates for the program, which is will run in November. So we're hoping we'll have those dates this week. And again, it's a 3-day program, as it has been mentioned. And the fees are 4,850, and there is an alumni discount for UCD alumni. So do get in touch. Suzanne has shared her details there. So we'd love to hear from you if you'd like to find out a little bit more, or indeed are interested in applying. And we really appreciate you taking the time to join us on this beautiful sunny day. And we hope you found it useful and insightful. We look forward to hearing from you further. Thanks, John and Emma.
Thank you. Cheers. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye bye.